we will go ahead and start moving on to our next section of the conference, which is campus successes and student engagement. And we have Sang and Angelica here. Angelica is from the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and Sang is from Ohlone College. And so we have a community partner and a campus partner, and we're going to talk. They both have been very successful with their work with students, so we just want to hear more about how did they get so successful in their work with students, what are the strategies that they use, and yeah, so I will go ahead and let them take it away. Sang or Angelica, do you have a preference on who goes first? Awesome.
I guess I can go first since I have my slides up, and then yeah, let me go ahead and screen share, and then we will get going. But thank you for the opportunity to just be here today. I love this work, and you'll see some of why I love this work is because we get to work with students. Okay, can you all see my slide deck here?
Yes, we can see
Okay,
it.
perfect. Yeah. Okay, let me take a deep breath and then get started. But yeah, like I said, thank you for the invitation. And I think, it's funny to hear you say that, that we were invited because of the success we've had. And I want to say it's really, we're still learning. We're still trying to figure things out. But I am pleased today to share, I think the work that we have been doing for almost 10 years now in this space. And I think there's definitely more to do. And I really want to emphasize for the attendees who are particularly my peers, at other campuses, is to really think about how do we design programs that really enhance the student experience, not only in the college that they're attending itself, but also in the work that they're doing with this to engage in, whether it's reducing tobacco use or any other health issues. And I heard the last few minutes of the panel there around even student mental health. So I have 15 minutes. I'll try to get through my slides. Within that time frame. Ohlone College is in Alameda County, which is in the Bay Area. And in our county, we have a total of 7 community colleges. And I put this up here because some of our work actually is with other partners. And I really love that we're able to do that, right? Like not only are we working to support students at our own college, but we're able to collaborate, and that students get to collaborate with each other across, our peer campuses. And so down here is where we are in Ohlone College, which is in the city of Fremont, and borders Santa Clara County. Just a couple of photos of our beautiful campus. I feel very lucky to be here. I've been here for 25 years and have been with the Student Health Center the whole time. And like many other campuses, we have sort of the old one that's been around for 55 years, but really in the last few years, particularly since the pandemic, several brand new buildings that are definitely state of the art. And so I feel very happy and fortunate that our voters, right, voted to support bond measures that really help to renovate and expand institutions of higher learning. In terms of, this is a beautiful view, by the way, of our campus that actually does sit on a hill. But in terms of our campus population, just want to go through that really quick. About 16,000 students in terms of its head count. The gender breakdown is interesting. 58% males and 41% females. And I had to double check those numbers again, like I always do in our data mart in the chancellor's office, because it always astounds me, because we know traditionally it's more about 60% females and 40% males, I think nationally in terms of gender composition. But here at Ohlone, it's a little bit different. We are definitely a very diverse campus where 4 out of 5 students are actually non-white. Our larger student population are Asian American, Pacific Islanders, and South Asian students, as well as Hispanic students. In our school, we have both designation, the ANAPC and the HSI, which stands for Asian American, Pacific Islander, Native Hawaiians designation, as well as what we call HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution. And so we're very happy to get those federal designation, which also comes, of course, with federal dollars on how we support students in those racial ethnic groups a little bit better. And then in terms of our young adult population, what we call the emerging adulthood, it's 55%. Of course, all of you who have been doing this work know that that number has been declining, right? Because we're having a lot more what we call non-traditional age students on our campuses, which is also a very beautiful thing in terms of thinking about, learning together from with diverse students. Before I get into like the strategies, I wanted to just mention the Big Six. And this is something that a lot of institutions are thinking about. And us here at Ohlone, I've been trying to center our work around this concept of what we call the Big Six. And it's really something that's been around for about 10 years in terms of the research. And that is, it came out of Gallup and Purdue University, and they've been able to do this work where they've been able to look at really what are the experiences that students had during their college experience that actually predicts well-being as well as workplace satisfaction after they graduate. And so so the takeaway message, or one of the takeaway messages, it's not really where you go to college, but how you experience it that matters. And when we think about experiences, it's really what Gallup and Purdue were able to find was that it really falls into two camps. One is under what we call student support, which, to me, that's where the student health center is. We're under student services. But then the other camp is really around experiential learning. And so under student support, it's, it's you can see there on the left-hand side, it's having a professor or change that to staff member, coordinator, what have you, who really made them excited about learning and also made them care about as a person. So that is everything from knowing their name to asking how you're doing, how's your family, how's your, coursework, and then really having a mentor who encourages them to pursue their goals and dreams, whether it's being able to transfer or being able to think about graduate school or think about, the career options or the career interests. And then on the right side here is really the bucket around what we call experiential learning. And this is anything that has to do with like having a project for students that they can work on for at least one semester or longer. Having an internship that allows them to be able to apply what they learn, right? So like, let's not just wait until they graduate, but let's actually have them think about how does this apply now in the work that you're doing in an internship, and then also being extremely active. And so the studies around the Big Six is they survey students who have already graduated and say, of these, how many have you had? And of course, the higher the number, the greater the sense of well-being and job satisfaction postgraduate. And so here I just have a slide from Gallup that actually has the research around the proportion of like the greater sense of being able to experience well-being and job satisfaction on there. So just a little bit of data to support what it is I'm talking about. And you can see here just in terms of when they ask students from a cohort of schools that have really been honing in on this Big Six experience, you can see the range of here, from 1/5 of student respondents who said I had 0 to about a quarter of them saying that I've had 1. And so again, the idea is how many of these Big Six experiences can you really create? And I share that because I think that's exactly what we're trying to do here at Ohlone. So in moving on, I wanted to share sort of hone in on the strategies that we've been using at Ohlone to really improve student engagement. And of course, that is through our very deliberate design of how we have our student engagement programs. And so I'm going to go through these 6 things: paid opportunities, space for connection, mentorship, thinking about recruiting, having peers recruit, their peers, using facilitation teach back as a strategy to improve student engagement, and then really a deep investment in trainings and professional development. So I'll go through these 6 strategies briefly. Paid opportunities. We here at Ohlone are so fortunate to have quite a number of grants. We are grant driven. I think all of our grants make up more than 80% of our funding here at the health center. But you can see here we have 5 programs right now, with the 6th one actually starting in the fall with CYN. So I'm very happy about that partnership. But 4 of our programs are specific to mental health, and then 2 are research programs to advance tobacco control. And of course, these 2 are related. We know that from, studies and from research and from thinking about, the role that substance use plays in student mental health and well-being. But all these programs are paid. We don't offer opportunities for students that do not come with compensation of some sort. And we really emphasize that, because not only does that put a value to students' time and effort, but also this is a reality that we live in, right? We have, majority of our students are first-generation students. A lot of them have, they struggle with basic needs. And so whatever we do to support their growth, we want to make sure that they also have the basic needs to really live and thrive in the Bay Area. And so I won't go through these programs, but we will have these slides sent out, and you can kind of see, how some of these programs are structured and what their emphasis are on. But I just wanted, the big message here is all your programming should be paid opportunities for students. I want to talk a bit about space. We are very intentional about making sure we have space for connection. And so we have a virtual space as well as a physical space. We are big on Slack. Those of you who use Slack, it's a kind of a online platform that allows for collaborative work as well as messaging. And so in our current Slack space this year, we have almost 60 people, staff, graduate interns, as well as almost 40 students across our different programs, all in one space where we do a lot of communication, posting, collaboration. And we found that actually students are much more responsive in this platform than over email. And so I really encourage those of you who are thinking about, hosting student programs to think very intentionally about how you want to communicate with students and really bring them together. And I just put here a screenshot of my own Slack space and all the different channels that we have for our student wellness ambassadors and other student groups there. Space for connection is also about the physical space. And so our health center, I think it's probably one of the maybe a little bit larger than average for a community college. We have about maybe half a dozen mental health counseling rooms, 4 physical health exam rooms, but we made sure to designate one of the rooms to, specifically for students, and that's their space. So we call that the Zen Den. You can have a couple of photos here that shows you what the space looks like, but also every year we swap out photos and decorations, and they get to order supplies that they need and really encourage the space. And so I'm really happy to say that our students take advantage of it. They are in and out all day throughout the day at the health center, whether it's to come and have their shifts, for peer counseling, or just to work, or to have a meeting, but really making sure that they always have a sense of belonging here at the health center, because they very much are part of our team here. We also do a lot of mentoring here across all of our programs. In fact, when we offer what we call moments of mentorship opportunities, we open it up to all the programs. And so this is a chance for students to actually interact with each other, but also receive varying dosage of what we call mentoring opportunities. And so Moments of Mentorship is a framework out of Elon University that tells us mentoring does not have to occur on a one-on-one basis. It can happen in what we call micro interactions, whether it's being able to listen to a speaker or being able to go on a morning hike with somebody in the profession. But it's these opportunities where we have conversations, where we are able to showcase a person's career trajectory, and where students then really see the breadth and depth of what are the possibilities in a behavioral health or even a tobacco control research space. And so I just have here a couple of photos that we love to do. We have our campuses on the sits on a hillside of Mission Peak. And so we have a trailhead right behind our campus here. So we take students up every year. We just had one last Friday, actually, to really enjoy that outdoor time together. And then on the picture on the right here is Ardenwood Farm. So we took students to a farm. And so these events happen one Saturday per month with different guest speakers and what have you. And so again, really investing in mentoring opportunities for students, and when they attend all these events, their hours count as work time. We're very, very keen on that too, because we want students to know that this is an investment in them. A few more photos here. My colleague Becky actually took students to a Commonwealth Club event in San Francisco, so they can meet the dean of the School of Public Health from Boston University and other professionals in the field. And so we really try to expand as many or really host as many varied opportunities as possible. Peer recruitment. So across most of our programs, we actually have students be part of recruiting the next year's cohort. So whether it's a student ambassador program or our mental health navigator program, students develop materials themselves and also sit on the interview committees and help select the next cohort. I always like to say, particularly for my mental health navigators, you know, I've never been a mental health navigator, whereas you have. And so you can actually speak more authentically about the role itself than, you know, than me. And so, and students really love this because they get to dip their toes into the HR world, you know, for a few weeks and really think about how we can, how they can help support, you know, the next cohort and the student success. And so really, I think utilizing this model is wonderful for us because I think we end up with a much more diverse and stronger cohort, you know, and really students know each other, you know. We also use what we call facilitation and teach back. So a lot of our meetings and check-in include a check-in. Students actually facilitate that piece. And so we have a sign-up schedule. And I love this piece too, because then it's not just a staff running the meetings all the time, right? It's actually students having a role in it and really rotating facilitation. And that includes things like journal clubs where we read peer review articles and then also create opportunities, not at every meeting, but many meetings where we actually have a teach back component. You know, students sign up to share something that maybe they have an expert in or expertise in or interest in. And so again, it's really a dynamic learning environment that is not so much didactic, but really, I think, you know, really they employ that teach back model. We also have a podcast program, and a lot of that is teach back and facilitation too. So we produce about, I want to say, close to 15 to 18 episodes a year. Both our ambassadors will have their regular podcast program as well as our student navigators, and they're both. And the podcast program is available on Spotify as well as I think SoundCloud is that top one. Okay, I think I have a minute left, so I'll try to hurry up here. Like I mentioned earlier, we invest heavily in trainings and professional development. Our program at least for our mental health programs, we host a summer academy as well as a winter academy before the beginning of each semester, and it's a week-long training. We bring all the students together from across the programs, and they really get to know each other, but also get a lot of content delivery, as well as a lot of team building opportunities. And this year, we started to support students attending professional conferences in the Bay Area. And the last thing I'll say about this, and that is the peer review article you see in the middle there, we had a group of student researchers in our previous tobacco control study looking at smoke-free policies. We give them opportunities to lead manuscript development. And so here's a paper that was produced and led by our student researchers. One of them was Satari, who has gone through, I think, 4 different programs with us and was really, just really, I think, illustrated the power of a young person taking on this role and really feeling like that, she can grow into the position and also being able to contribute to the peer review literature. And I think that's it. This is just our contact information and where you can find us on social media as well as our websites. We have one for the Health Center as well as our Step Up program, which is our mental health program. That was a lot, and I got us done in 15 minutes exactly. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now and turn it back over to Symphony.
Thank you, Sang, for your presentation. I will pass it over to Angelica to talk more about her success with student engagement on campus.
Thank you, Symphony. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Let me just present. Alrighty, y'all. Hi, my name is Angelica Garcia. I am with the Viva Project. There it goes. The Viva Project, which stands for Voices Inspiring Valley Action. We are a project funded by the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. And our project is focused on educating and empowering rural communities in the Central Valley to create healthy individuals, families, and communities. And here, this picture is our lovely and amazing students at West Hills Community College that have pushed our smoke and tobacco-free policy at West Hills. And so I started this, just change this. I started this project in 2022, and so we needed to engage some students at West Hills Community College, and I am about an hour, 45 minutes away from this college. So for me, it was, how can I engage these students? How can, how can I reach them? And so a key thing for me was paid opportunity. So everything I titled was a paid opportunity for these students. And so I would go on campus as much as I can, attend events, and provide the information of our project. And also connecting with staff to post flyers up so that students walking by in the halls can see the opportunity. One other strategy that I used was I emailed some professors. So I kind of just went on the website. I looked for some professor emails, and I did a mass email and included the flyer for the project. And West Hills did have a job posting section on their website. And so we utilized that as well to kind of promote our project and get students engaged. The next step to us moving this work on campus was learning the policy landscape, right? So who are the decision makers? How can we get a meeting with these decision makers? What is the process to change a policy on campus? And so really what we did is we had to dig a little bit. We found the student governing body of the campus, and we connected with them. We scheduled meetings, and it was a long journey to kind of learn the policy process. And we first initiated our meetings with the dean, and then we were able to engage with the student governing body. And we kind of decided that if they heard the student voices, then that would probably be helpful to us rather than faculty or outside agency. And so that's kind of how we built that relationship with West Hills Community College. And next, I will be talking about engagement. So keeping the students and the students engaged was really key to our success because they really did an amazing job at moving this work forward. And so one of the few things that I did was I made sure that I was flexible with their availability. So really just keeping in mind that I know that they're students, they do have jobs, maybe even parents. So being sure that if I had scheduled the meeting and they didn't make it, just following up, being sure that I was available at their time, really centering their availability to kind of connect and go over the things that we needed to cover. And then most importantly, allowing students to take lead, right? So although we may have certain tasks that we know we need to get done, just allowing that space for them to kind of take lead and navigate that work the way that works for them and is comfortable for them. And also creating a safe space. So look to them as your partner. I love to say this, they're your partner, right? Even though I was overseeing them and I kind of was working with them closely, I always made sure to look to them as a partner in the work that we were moving at West Hills. And providing ongoing support, having an open door policy, right? So if I needed to review something over, I made sure that I stated that if they needed a one-on-one, I made sure that I kind of reassured that every time I spoke with them, if there's anything that you need, then please let me know, and this is my availability. And just being sure when you're working with students on college campus, just establish a relationship, get to know them. And some ways that I did this was in every check-in that we would have with each other. It was mainly virtual, but I would have a check-in question. And I'd kind of target that check-in question to kind of allow me to get to know about them a little bit. And, you know, it was a good icebreaker, and it allowed us to kind of be a little bit more comfortable with each other over time. And then simply asking them about their day, their major, you know, really wanting and expressing the fact that you want to get to know more about them is really important to having relationships and working with students. And being sure to show appreciation in any and all their work that they do. And so there were some challenges that we did go through. So one of them was identifying a champion in the beginning of this work and connecting with the college campus. You know, we would talk to one person, talk to another person, and so it was really a challenge for us to kind of identify someone who would champion smoke-free campus. And we eventually we were successful in doing it at the very end. And honestly, I feel like that was the reason why this moved forward the way it did. And this student was part of the student governing body at the campus. And so I feel like that was really key. One of the other things we did see is inconsistent communication. Again, so we tried phone calls, emails. A lot of times we're kind of just waiting on someone to get back to us. And that was pretty hard because, you know, we were really motivated. We really wanted to work with the college to be of assistance with anything that they needed to kind of move the policy forward. And as we started in the beginning, as we started working with the college, it seemed that not everybody knew of the policy procedure. And so that kind of held us back a little bit as well, where it was like they needed to talk to one person, and then maybe that person was like, oh, well, I need to check in with this one. So it's kind of like we're in a circle for a little bit when everyone was trying to figure out where to go, who to go to, and what the next steps were. And one of the other things was avoiding conflict. I feel like when the discussions came about of going 100% smoke-free, they seemed to be a little afraid of, you know, we're taking away something that folks are already used to doing. So they had, at a point, they had considered going with designated areas. And so that was something that did occur. However, our students were able to provide enough information to encourage a 100% smoke-free campus. So although there had been many challenges, these few were the ones that held the policy from moving quickly. And so lastly, the policy was adopted March of 2024. Yay, congrats to the students that worked at West Hills Community College. They were able to successfully complete 111 public intercept surveys, 53 petitions, 27 stories, 3 public comment instances, 3 letters to the Board of Trustees, and presented to student leader groups at multiple campus sites. And so implementation of the policy will begin August of 2024. And that concludes my presentation. I will stop sharing now.
Wonderful, thank you, Angelica. We did have some Q&A questions prepared, but you both answered a lot of them in your slides. And so if any of the attendees have any other questions, please feel free to add them to the chat. One question we do have is for Sang, and we wanted to know if there's if you notice any change in connection with students after the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those of us who are in this higher education space, we talk a lot about student retention and students' ability to thrive and succeed, whatever that means, whether it's obtaining their associates or being able to transfer or what have you. And for us, a lot of that is predicated on the idea of this construct that's called sense of belonging. And we know that it's actually one of the best predictors of students' ability to thrive. So anything we can do to create a sense of belonging is really what the key strategy is. And so we definitely feel that students are actually starving for opportunities to connect with each other. A lot of them are unsure how to do it, particularly since pandemic, right? Where you spend, it's a lot of young people spent several years just behind the screen. And so, when we were starting to come back to campus, a lot of them were a little bit unsure of like, how does this work again? You know what I mean? How do I make friends, particularly if they're starting to be on campus for the first time, since spending a few years there. And so I think that's been a noticeable change, is just a demand of, for opportunities. And we measure that because we see the volume of students who apply for our programs. Our Smoke-Free Scholars program, and Kim knows about this, when we put out the call for applications last year, we received 49 applications for 4 spots. And so that just tells you not only are we here to present a wonderful research opportunity, but students just want to be able to be part of something to help shape their experience at college, but it's also to be part of a group or part of a social circle that could really help them feel a greater sense of belonging.
Thank you, Tsing, for sharing that. And I think we've noticed the same thing also with all of the young people, both high school aged and college students that we work with. It's just that human connection, those touch points of being people. So I'd love if you both can speak a little bit about, you've talked about some of the things that you do with students, some of the recruitment and engagement. And so this has a 2-part question. So one part is that human to human connection first. What are some examples of things that you do to connect with students to show that you see them, without talking about tobacco or health or anything, but just as a partner? And I love, Angelica, that you said that it truly is a partnership. So how do you really just check in with students and connect with them so that they feel seen and appreciated?
Yeah. Why don't you go first, Angelica?
Okay, will do. I just see them, like I connect with them on a level where they're important to me. I want to get to know about them, especially when I'm first meeting them. I'm interested in who they are, what they have going on, and I show that in my words. I show that in my questions that I have for them, and also being mindful that they are the students that I was working with were younger. So keeping that in mind too, that they were on the younger side, not too much older. And so I'm really just creating a space where they were able to feel comfortable. And kind of just, be them. They didn't have to consider this as a job, because that was kind of like, when we onboarded, that was a little hesitation of theirs. But just be you, and I accept that. Like whoever that is, whoever you want to show up as.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about 2 things. In terms of being out on campus and trying to connect with students, we do a lot of tabling, whether it's for a specific topic or a specific reason. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is eliminate that barrier, right? So our students actually don't always stay behind the table, they actually come in front of the table. And just that physical, minor like change can really make a difference, right? Because then they're able to engage with their peers much easier when they're like in front of the table and pointing to whatever it is, whether it's, hey, come grab a snack or come spin or wheel or what have you. And so that's been something that we've been trying to do much more deliberately, you know, because it kind of seems it can be a little intimidating, or people would feel a little awkward about like, I don't want to go up to that table, right? But if you're like out and about in front of your space and you're a little bit more, you know, I think it's coming across as a little bit more welcoming. And so we definitely do that. But one way to make students feel seen and heard is to feed them. And so that's always a try and true method, you know. And for the programming itself, across our different programs, I mentioned this earlier, but we actually have students facilitate a lot of the cohort meetings. I mean, we're there too, like the staff, the team, but giving students an opportunity to assume a leadership role and have them decide and design what it is that they want to do for that meeting, I think makes them feel like they're being seen and heard. And so, you know, we're constantly doing like check-ins, you know, like end of the semester, we have a survey, and not only do we have them take the survey, but we actually go through the responses with them. We're like, okay, is everyone done? Let's actually take a look at this, and then walk through each like constructive feedback and say, which one as a group do you all want us to employ next or integrate next? And so really, I think creating that sense of transparency, you know, but also asking for feedback and actually doing something with it makes them feel seen and heard as well. And so really, I think, yeah, just the way we interact with our students and the way we hold space, I think helps to have them make them seem like they're being seen and being heard, and that the concept of mattering, right, that they matter in this process.
Thank you. And I think that ties so perfectly into what we heard the student panel say earlier about how, you know, when we ask them, why are you involved? What got you to be involved? I think what you all have shared in the fact that you've been able to offer them funding, which is so important if you're able to recognize their time with money and with a stipend or with a salary, has been fantastic. But they also shared a lot that their sense of purpose was that they are doing something positive for the community. And so it's so nice to see that you're able to offer those opportunities, and that they know that just connecting with a student, I love like the idea of going in front of a table and preventing those barriers. And so they can go out, and their sense of community is with their peers and inviting them to do something to make their spaces or campuses healthier.
Yeah, can I just add to Kim that years ago I used to be out there with them, and now I'm not anymore, because I realized, you know what, one, like could be back in other things, but also they actually don't need me there, right? They can actually go out and do that themselves, and then it's really a peer space. Do you know what I mean? And so, I mean, that was kind of a shift for us, you know, because we used to just be like, okay, here's a schedule of tabling, let everyone sign up, and then I have to figure out, you know, which ones I'm staffing, which ones my colleague is staffing. And then we really shifted the model to say, you all know how to do this, here's a schedule, and do it in a way that works for you, in a way that allows you to really connect with your peers in a really authentic way, you know. So I think trusting the students to know what they need to do and do it their own way.
And so with that, you both work with students, but in different ways, because saying you're on campus and Angelica, you're not on campus. So can you both talk about what you have found to be most successful in terms of where you meet with students and when you meet with students and how often you are connecting with them, either in person or virtually or via email or phone or whatever it might be?
You want to go first, Angelica, and I'll follow you? We'll take turns.
Sure. So me and the students, we usually do virtual. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time? I'm so sorry.
No worries. Like, where do you meet? So if you're meeting them virtually, and then how often do you connect all together, or do you just do one-on-one connections with them?
Yes, so definitely in the beginning of the project, it's more often, and then it kind of just goes with what is needed. And of course, meeting the needs of the students themselves. So perhaps one student may need more one-on-one time, and others don't. And so really just learning their style, learning what works for them as well. And again, just meeting them where they need. Virtually worked really well. Sometimes I'd have 7 p.m. meetings, and I told them that was okay. Whatever works for your schedule, whenever you're able to really tune in, because folks get overstimulated, and I understand that. And so yeah, just meeting them where they are virtually worked for us.
It's a little bit different across the programs. And so in our Smoke and Vape Free Scholars program, we actually meet students twice a week. So it's pretty intense because of the nature of the program. Those alternate between Zoom and in person, but we definitely encourage more the in-person space because that's really where I think the more authentic interactions happen. For my Student Wellness Ambassador program and the Navigator program, in the fall, it's a weekly schedule, and in the spring, it's a bi-weekly schedule. And that's very intentional because we want to do more of the heavier lifting, in fall when they're just onboarding and kind of getting used to that. And then the second semester, people are pretty settled into their roles, and so we're meeting less often. But for the ambassador program, it also alternates between in-person and Zoom, but then they see each other almost daily because they're all here in and out, right? Either for their peer counseling sessions that they have to staff or just their events. And so I think that's less of an issue, whether it's like, when we do Zoom or in person, just because they already see each other outside of our regular meetings. And then for my Navigator program, which I think I just love and adore so much because it's cross-sector, cross campus. This year we have 6 of the 7 community colleges. And so we actually rotate the meetings to different campuses. And every time we have an in-person meeting, we always include like a social hour, either before or after. So we're very intentional about that too, because then that gives us time to actually relax and chit chat and kind of get to know people instead of having an agenda all the time, right? Because I'm also kind of agenda driven. I'm like, okay, these are things we got to do. But also being able to rotate our meetings to different campuses allows the students to serve as a host. And so whenever it's like their turn, it's so cute. They're all on Slack and trying to figure out, where they get to pick the catering, they get to pick the room, and it kind of helps set the agenda. So I think that definitely helps, it's still, I think, a sense of pride, right? For their campus, but also to be able to be in that host chair. But I mentioned earlier in my slides that we moved to Slack about 4 years ago, and that has really changed the way our programs operate because it's actually required that everyone checks in on Slack at least once a day. But also there's a lot of conversations happening between the different channels based on their projects or a topic, but also just being able to like communicate with, navigators able to communicate with other scholars who aren't in their program because they've already met during our summer and winter academies. And so we have a lot of not only cross-program interactions, but even cross campuses. Like I mentioned, I think we're up to 59 people in our Slack space. I'm the administrator on there, so I'm always watching to make sure people are on the right channels and people don't post inappropriately on our general space. But again, having a virtual space that students can really feel comfortable and feel like it's easily accessible really makes a difference. I hardly ever use email with any of my student programs anymore. Everything is done through Slack, and then of course our in-person conversations. And so I think I hope I answered your question, Kim, around frequency and just how we manage to be able to hold space with them.
Yes, you did. Thank you. And then in terms of, I'm going to rework a little bit this question that was asked of the student panel from your perspective. So someone had asked the students if they were trained to reach young people, what should they tell them the opportunities are? And what were the students who presented, what did they take away from their experience of participating in advocacy work? And so from your side, what do you tell students when you're doing recruitment that they will experience or get from partnering with you in your work?
I guess I'll go first this time, Helga. Okay. So when we recruit, students actually create like an FAQ video, and it's really there where we actually have everyone watch it before you apply. And we have a little box that says, yes, I watched the video. And I think that's one way to really communicate using our current students' voices and their thoughts on like, yeah, what is this program really about? And this is what you can expect to be part of that. So that definitely helps. But the other thing we actually did that's new this year was we actually had social/informational hour about the position, about the programs. And so we were very intentional about that too. Here's a, if you're interested in this program, here's a couple of drop-in. One is the social hour on campus at the Multicultural Student Center, and then we have 2 Zoom-based in case you can't make it in person. And it's casual, and it's just come and ask us about what this is. So that way they know what they're applying for, but then they also get to actually interact with the current students now. And the students actually host that. Like, I don't even show up for those. They just tell me what they need in terms of the date and the space and food, but they're the ones who are out there, I think, being the spokesperson and really creating that space for students who are still maybe even deliberating, right? And I think it really helps because we send the message that we are also very thoughtful about recruitment. Like, this isn't just, like, sure, we'll take everybody. We can't actually. And we also want to make sure that your motivations and your objectives for the program align with what it is that we're trying to do. Yeah. I'm going to turn it over to Angelica. I'm going to run and grab my charge before I get knocked out of Zoom. Sorry.
For the Viva project, when I'm engaging young people, what I really like to talk about is the skills that they will learn. I go over the public comment piece, the leadership skills, and more so when they learn these skills about creating change on their campus, they're able to apply this in other things as well. In their cities, right? And I always give them an example. If there's something in your cities that you want changed, you have, your voice matters, and you have now all these skills where you can go into your communities and create change as well with the advocacy, leadership, and all of the skills that you're learning within this project.
Awesome. Thank you both. And then last question before we go to break. Have either of you noticed any stigma associated with students being involved in work to address vaping? So I just ask this because we hear this a lot from teens who tell us that it's so not cool to be involved in efforts to address vaping. And I wonder if that is a similar sentiment with the student population at colleges and universities.
For me, not on college. However, I do have a 13-year-old, and I do feel like he gives me, like, when he shares stories, he shares something with me. It's definitely that age group where it's this kind of work is not the cool thing to do.
Yeah, I haven't had that experience, although I do want to share that one of our Smoke Vape Free scholars, her family's from Libya, and she was telling us that when her family found out that she's, or not found out, but when her family was informed that she's doing this research program with us, and it includes a focus on vaping, they were, she was trying to reconcile the idea that it was such a cultural part of their family environment. Yet how is this an issue that she's working on to address in terms of curbing its, understanding its harmful effects, but also like they're, it's seen so embedded in their culture, but yet it's a public health topic that she's also working on in an academic space. Do you know what I mean? So I think she was actually trying to reconcile that with what she kind of grew up with, the environment that she kind of grew up with. And so, so I don't know if that's stigma per se, but maybe just a sense of like reconciliation around like what's been sort of the norm, right? The socialization of it and the normalization of it in her own family background versus like, having a chance to participate in some sort of intervention to curb usage.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that's such a unique perspective because we had heard earlier in the day about work specifically with international students. And we recognize that in a lot of other countries that what some of the regulations that we have in the United States and specifically in California, the industry is not regulated the same overseas. And so oftentimes there's higher cigarette use rates, higher prevalence just across the board. And when students come as international students, they might have a higher prevalence simply because of where they're coming from. And of course, wanting to engage international students to participate in this work and be involved. So it's so interesting to hear that perspective of not so much dealing with a pure side of things, but hearing from families not understanding the culture that we're trying to create in California around denormalizing use versus what's seen abroad. So that's awesome that you were able to share that. And just appreciate you both being here today and all the work that you're doing and sharing these unique perspectives on engaging students in this ongoing effort on our colleges and universities. So thank you both so much. And with